Welcome to the first version of the Israel Update. I've been doing a written update of events in Israel now for 7 years. But times have changed, and it's time to go with the times and start doing this by video. I thank my son Eitan for pushing me to do this. Hopefully, all you people out there will enjoy it over the coming months and years. To the news. Luckily, we can move away from issues in Syria that have so dominated Israel's news for the last couple of days. It's as if it didn't happen. All the events that took place, the bombing in Syria, seems to have dropped from the news in Israel completely. Of course, the killing goes on in Syria. I'm sure in the coming days we'll speak about that some more. In the meantime, Israel, the last 2 days, has been discussing one issue, and almost one issue alone, and that's the budget of the country. Finance Minister Yair Lapid yesterday unveiled his new budget. For weeks, discussions was going on, what would the budget include? There were rumors of all sorts of different decrees and all sorts of different issues were going to be in the budget. In the end, he announced his budget yesterday, and like everyone expected, there were both severe cuts as well as new taxes. The issue of the taxes, of course, is the thing that has brought up the most controversy in Israel, particularly a 1% increase in the income tax, which is across the board, and a 1% increase in the value-added tax. Now, the value-added tax is a very regressive tax, and it affects everybody, from the poorest to the richest, and is like any value-added tax, the poorest pay more than the richest in terms of the percentage of their salaries. So there's a great deal of concern here that the value-added tax is going to hurt the poor more than anybody else, and this is on top of a 1% increase that took place only 3 months ago. Now, the two increases together means 2% across the board on all prices and all products. And right now there's calls in Israel for renewal of the social protest movement that took place a summer and a half ago. Now, why should the social protest movement come back out? The reason, unfortunately, is very simple. Every single achievement of the social protest movement is now gone. All the increases in budgets for various things that were going to help the middle class has been eliminated in the new budget. And of course, nothing whatsoever has been done to decrease the price of goods and services in the country. So here we have a situation where someone's elected to help the middle class, and unfortunately he found himself in a situation where the government has a 50 billion shekel deficit. And in order to fill that deficit, you need both increase in taxes and cutbacks. The question is, where are those cutbacks going to come from? So there are calls for a renewal of the social protest movement, and there's going to be a protest tomorrow night in front of Yair Lapid's house. And next Saturday night in the streets of Tel Aviv, there's going to be another large demonstration. We will see whether it'll get off the ground or not. The situation, though, is simple. In a year and a half since the social movement began, nothing has improved in terms of the cost of living in this country. If anything, it's become more expensive. The one area where it looks like things are going to change is the area of the equalization of the burden. The one major result of the elections this past year is the fact that the Haredim are not in the government, and the fact of the matter is that the new budget hurts them most, and there's continued work on getting a legislation that will draft Haredi youth into the army. So in that area, the social protest movement had success. Everything else so far has been a failure, and the cost of living in this country is still way, way too high. So we will see. Talk will go on. We have to do this because we don't want to turn into another Greece. However, Greece doesn't have Intel, Greece doesn't have Apple, Greece doesn't have 2 Google development centers. So this is not about to become Greece. There are severe fiscal constraints on any government at the moment, and Yair Lapid is trying to implement a policy that will somehow get us out of the mess that he inherited. Time will tell. The second major news today is also related to the Haredim. It was a decision by the Israeli Attorney General, Yehuda Weinraub, to criminalize any attempt at separating between the sexes in any sort of public events. He has ordered elimination of any attempt to separate men and women at cemeteries, any attempt to stop women from giving eulogies, any attempt to have 2 separate doors for women and men on buses, and in any other sort of area. Now, interestingly enough, this is beginning to change anyway. From 2 years ago, where it seemed that women were being pushed off the streets of Jerusalem, off of all of the posters and everything else. Today, women have returned to the posters in Jerusalem. It's sort of what I would generally call, from political science, imperial overreach. The Haredim pushed too high in almost every area, and one of those areas was the attempt to push women out of the public sphere. It's failed terribly, and luckily the government now is also pushing back, and we're seeing a real change, a real result of the pushback from pushing women out of the public sphere, and that's all for the good. Finally, the last item that's been in the news today in Israel was a decision by Stephen Hawkins to join the BDS, Boycott Israel movement, and not come to the presidential conference that's taking place in June. Over the day, there were various stories going back and forth. Did he actually boycott because of political reasons, or did he boycott because of health? In the end, tonight it was confirmed that he did boycott because of political reasons. Now, one of the big mistakes of all the people involved in the BDS movement is a belief that it strengthens the left in Israel. It will hurt the settlements. Just the opposite is true. People don't understand the fact that when Israel is boycotted, the right wing is able to say, look, ha'olam kulay nagdenu, the world is all against us. Therefore, it doesn't make a difference what we do. Whatever we do, they're going to be against us. So we'll go about and do what's good for the Jews. The BDS movement is the best thing that happens to the right wing. It's the worst thing that happens to the left. Unfortunately, people in the world do not understand that, do not get the left and right in this country. So unfortunately, a very brilliant man, Stephen Hawkins, is joining them and not taking part in the presidential conference taking place in June that honors, among other things, President Peres' birthday. That's it tonight from Tel Aviv, the Israel Update. Please join us, hopefully almost every night, with a new update, and please subscribe.